Congratulations. Good evening and welcome to Planning Committee for the 5th of November 2024. Agenda item number 1, apologies for absence. We've got from Councillor Dodds.
Councillor Dodds and Councillor Plant.
Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. See none. Agenda item 3, approve the minutes of Planning Committee from the 15th of October. Councillor Rose, Councillor Thomas, all in favour? And receive and consider the draft notes of transportation strategy. Was that included?
There's a report
Yeah.
with a recommendation.
Recommended. So,
I'd like to propose that recommendation.
okay. All, I wish I got a second, I'm quite happy to second it. Councillor Rose can second it. All in favour? Thanks. Agenda item number 4, public participation. Just before we start, I know we've got one member of the community. If there's a fire on, we'll have to run out that way, waving our arms. We'll help you. Public participation. Would you care to speak?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me the time. I'm Simon Matt. I'm coming here to represent the Henley Hub and the works at Trinity Hall. I have put together a letter and amendment, which I have forwarded. I hope that people have managed to have a look at it. Since our discussions, or since your discussions, the initial presentations, I have had discussions with the SODC and local community, and we've looked and listened to some of the concerns that have come out and made some changes to the design. So to one side, we had a double height extension. I think there were concerns about amenity and size and slightly overpowering to one of the neighbours next door. We've reduced that down to a single story. And the case officer, Simon Kitson, those discussions with him, he approved that and he likes it and he approves our schemes. Along with that, I provided various additional information that I hope supports our sports scheme, looking at how we address the area, amenity. And now realistically, this proposal is a small side extension and a glass link. It is not what it was. I know the community have raised their concerns about the traffic in the area. I would say, people know, I live basically next door to the hall. My house overlooks it. I get affected too, so I'm not somebody just going, yeah, whatever. Those lot can deal with it because it's part of me. But I think that the concerns came from that people saw, particularly something that said wedding venue. Honestly, people were very concerned. It's mainly going to be for the music, the Henley Music School. That is what we're not increasing the hall. We're basically trying to use it what it's meant to be used for. We provide the extension of the side provides a bit more storage and a better WC facilities. And we think it is a massive improvement. All we are doing, or the works we are doing, we're adding insulation, we're making it to be able to use it. If it isn't developed, it'll just go into disrepair. Really. Now, I put a lot in my letter. I don't know if there's any questions anybody has that they'd like to raise about it.
Yeah, I've got a question. It's about a lot of the residents' concerns were around parking.
Yes.
And I did go down to the Trinity Hall to remind myself about its situation, and it does already have a car park. And I'm wondering why you're not using it in your plans.
In the front?
Yes.
We are.
But there's only 3 spaces shown on the plans.
Well, at the moment, there's an in and out.
Yes, it's got 2 drop curves.
And in theory, there's no actual space for, it's very difficult to get in. All we're doing is consolidating it to be able to come in and park there. So we think we're not reducing it, we're improving the access to it. Because you probably know one side is basically isn't used that much, and the other side is very difficult to get in. We've increased the cycle bays on there. We have the support from the highways,
Oh yeah, I know that the highways are supporting you,
Mm.
but it's just that, it's just a reality that people are going to be dropping off and parking there. It's just
Yeah.
it's just a reality of the nature of what you're trying to do in this building.
Yeah.
So you have to address that, and if you can put that in your plan, showing that you've got an in and an out, you're going to operate a one-way system to get those people dropping off into into that circular movement, just like they do again at school. Then I think it would delay a lot of the residents' fears, because that's what they're thinking, is that it's going to cause traffic jam chaos.
Yeah.
And by having this in and out system, it will alleviate that problem.
One of the reasons we kind of move slightly away from it is because we have the ramped access to one side, and that at the moment is where you come into the in and out, and you have that ramped access. So we felt that it wasn't viable, that it's not an area where it's easily turned in and out, and at the moment it's exceedingly, I don't drive in there basically, at the moment.
Yeah, well, the access is quite narrow, but you could push that out.
Yeah, but we wanted the ramp, because one of the whole points is making it completely accessible, so we needed the space, and that's why we put that centre. But then we're making a wider opening, so you can get in easier and drop off. But we're hoping that people don't drive. I mean, that's the thing.
Just one question then. Activities take place there today.
Sorry?
Activities take place there today, don't they?
Yes, yeah,
So they've got the shooting club
yeah,
and the snooker club.
Yeah.
And they've got the music school there to a degree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they hold occasional concerts there.
yeah,
So we're not actually increasing anything that they do today, and they manage today.
yeah. That's the thing.
Well,
That's what
apart
I'm
from
saying, is
the weddings and the other events that they
claims,
want to hold
the
there.
claims.
But that was an unfortunate thing. The reason it's come in is it is people think that it's everybody hanging outside, smoking and drinking. No, the kitchen facilities won't manage a big function. We've reduced the kitchen down. That's part of the initial. It's this application really is for a small section, it doesn't increase the kind of the usage of the hall and things like that. So it's still, I mean, we had at the Living Advent, there's about 150 people there last year, and I believe most people walked, because we didn't see any issues with the parking there. We're not changing
Doing anything different.
that. No.
Because I thought the music school was based up at Shiplake College.
They don't have anywhere at the moment,
Okay.
and they don't have anywhere to practice. At the moment, unfortunately, we have a lot of musical instruments there that are slowly deteriorating.
Right.
On it.
Well, there's just one more bit of feedback from the environmental protection team, which is you need to do a noise reports, and you need, whatever, because they can't make a decision based on what the information you've supplied so far.
Yeah.
So they're asking for that information, which I thought would come up, and then they need to make a decision. And if they decide that they're against you, they're going to want you to mitigate.
Certainly. What I put forward to some kids and also who raised that is saying, we understand that's got to be done, but when you do something like that, you've got to know, you've got to do an M&E assessment it's a huge amount of cost. It's a charity. I'm doing this pro bono. I don't get any fees for this. We're doing it on a shoestring, to get it to where we can start.
Yeah.
Get into money. What I have said is that we, at the moment, a lot of the windows don't have glass that reaches the frame. There are gaps to it. We're having double glazing. We're having insulation around the building, which will quietening everything down. We will have acoustic panels inside. I hardly ever hear it for years. So there's not. I think what I got from the discussions I've had with people is it's about people leaving the space late at night. But this isn't about that. This is about
the environmental protection doesn't know that that's what it's about, because you haven't actually put your business plan together, so that they're going on what they've got in front of them.
I part of this is discussions that we've put forward to them And I've said to Simon Kitson, we're happy to do it if need be on a condition. We're happy to do that, but realistically, to get that done to public application will be tens of thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
So we'll take it on.
Okay. Any other questions?
My only comment was just to suggest that you do that it's a condition
Yeah.
rather than something you front load into the application.
Yeah. As you know, it will just be tens of thousands to get it done. But I think people were talking about the air source heat pump. They have to meet a certain noise level, and there are actually air source heat pumps there anyway. At the moment.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
We will jump very quickly into agenda item 5, which is plans amended. First one, P24 S2572 householder for 1 Albert Road. Julie?
Yes, so we recommended refusal last time on this application due to overdevelopment, loss of daylight and sunlight, and the dormer and roof lights failing to enhance the conservation or the local character of the area. So you can see from the plan that they've removed the dormer and the roof lights. They also reduced the depth of the upper story extension. So it comes out by 3 metres to help reduce the impact on those properties on Grays Road.
Okay. Councillor Jackson.
I propose approval. Okay. I think it's a significant improvement on what was there before.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Rollins, care to comment on it? Anybody care to comment on it?
Yeah, I'm so torn with this. I'm not usually, but it's the plots, the gardens for the Grays Road houses are small, on the small
Yeah.
side. So I understand, the way the light comes around, but at least the way that comes around, they will get it from sort of like, I don't know,
Yeah.
lunchtime maybe, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's, yeah, but it will affect their morning light for sure.
So the only thing I will say is that this property seems to be up for sale at the minute, and it seems to be being that they're putting the planning permission into it so they can sell it with planning permission. So whether or not this actually means that something will go ahead, or whether it won't, I don't know. But at one point in time, they were clearing a lot of stuff out of it. So they're not so sure they were demolishing it, but they were definitely clearing out what was inside. Literally, it's across the road.
I'm not
It's
sure that's a
for sale.
material planning
It's not
consideration, though, is
at
it?
all. It's not at all. However, it looked as if they were starting to do demolition work prior to anything. And I'm not going to say that's what it was, but there was a skip outside for a couple of weeks, kept getting filled up. The property's now up for sale. So I'm just, again, it's not a material planning permission.
Yeah.
It's not material. However, I do think that this is aimed to put the property in a position to be sold with planning permission. It doesn't really change what we do. It's just another thing that we're sort of starting to see. Anyway, we have a proposal for approval, and we've got a second for approval. Anybody else got to speak on it? All in favour? All against?
I'm abstaining.
Abstain. Okay. Okay. You got that?
Yep.
And Trinity Hall, P24 S2583, full.
Yes, so there's been amendments made to this application that includes the removal of the first floor above the proposed side extension, the addition of a modern pitched roof above the extension, and some external finishes and internal works. So they've reduced down the 2-storey side extension to a single-storey extension. We raised concerns about that previously. This helped reduce the impact on Harpston Road and Walton Avenue. The cladding's been replaced with white brick, which would be similar to the existing elevation of the hall. Again, that was one of our concerns raised previously. And then just in terms of highways, parking, the highways officer, as we've just mentioned, has requested a travel plan statement to be provided on condition to show that private trips can be reduced and promote sustainable travel options.
Mr. Hunt?
Okay, I propose we accept this subject to approval by the traffic officer. I think the letter that Simon kindly sent out was very useful. The presentation was very helpful. They've clearly made an effort to address our concerns. So subject to the traffic issue being approved by someone who knows more about it than me, I think we should get this one through. Good.
So, Councillor Romans?
Yeah, I back Councillor Hunt's motion there. Just thinking about the parking side of it, I do think with that site you are between a rock and a hard place, really, because it's on a stretch of road where there's a lot of on-street parking, and this is it. I mean, if you can find a way of making that the access, the exit from that car park more efficient, then fine, fair enough. But I just think, I mean that building's been there now for goodness knows how long. It's been used for those types of events for goodness knows how long. And I just think there is some kind of unwritten rule locally that people think, right, okay, I have to walk there because I know I'm not going to be able to park. So if something can be done about the parking, great. But if not, I mean, I honestly cannot think of a viable solution just because of the way that road is.
Councillor Jackson?
I think it's self-policing over time. If you can't drive and you can't park there, you won't do it.
Exactly.
So you just, I think it will work itself out.
Yeah.
And so can I just clarify the recommendation for approval subject to an appropriate travel plan being submitted as part of condition?
I would like to just add, because I appreciate we don't necessarily want to sort of put a condition to say that before you do any permission, you have to have a noise and mitigation plan. Now, with the flat that was put on the back of, so overlooking the Tums Beer Garden, we recognised that there were noise concerns. And there was a condition put in that once it was put up, then we would, then testing would occur to make sure that it complied. Now, I appreciate that's another difficult way to approach it, because if it doesn't comply, at the end of it, what are you going to do? I do think we have to be cognizant somewhere that there may be an impact. However, if in the plans we've got double glazing going in and insulation going in, and this overall is making it better, do we even need to look at that condition? Is it part of building regulations, or who would have to comment? What I don't want to have to happen is that it goes to SODC and the environmental health say, oh, you have to produce this, that, and the other. Is there a way around it that gets?
We could put a note that we would like to see it conditioned rather than a requirement.
Yeah.
Just being careful about what the condition would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to disregard the neighbours in any sort of way, shape, or form. They're obviously going to live around there, but you yourself are a neighbour, and it's by its nature not going to be an overnight venue for weddings and the like, unless we have a community that wants to do one there, and the people who do it live in that community. So I'm just wondering, do we want to add any more to that approval?
Well, it's the noise, isn't it? There's the two main concerns are parking and noise. That's the two main concerns. So as long as those are addressed with conditions, then I think that this community venue deserves all the love and care that it can get from not just the community, but the trustees and people like Simon that have put in his time into rescuing it, because it has got into a really, really poor state, and we don't want to lose it. So yeah, as long as those two issues can be conditioned, and I don't know if you wanted to put some wording together, and once you've taken the vote, that is, and once we've worked out just the basic few sentences in there, And then if he wanted to, enrich it in planning speak, I always call it planning speak, that will resonate with SODC, the planning authority, then I think we've got a way forward.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether conditioning it prior to occupation would have the same costs as
Right.
requiring us, what was it?
Why does it have
Plan
cost?
at this point?
The issue surely is that if we make no comment about the noise at this stage, it could be thrown out, it could be refused because of the
It
noise
doesn't
not being
have that
addressed.
plan, yeah.
I think politically, it would be prudent to have something in from our side and their side that gets a permission in place, so it's still a live project, and then you move forward to an acoustic assessment, which I'm pretty sure can be achieved. It's just the funding of it, and the funding of it is not the planning matter. That's the tricky thing.
That's the thing.
So we need to get the condition in so that everything's live, and then it's a funding matter for trustees and so on and so forth,
Okay.
which will be met. I'm sure that the designer will address those concerns. But it's a consultant team that has to be paid, a separate consultant team to do that.
Yeah.
And bringing them in during the design would probably be cheaper than commissioning a report right at the very end of it, where they're coming in completely fresh. If they were there from the start and they understood that the design was done in such a way, then potentially the report at the end of it could be significantly less.
They could inform the design.
Yeah, exactly.
If they're brought in early enough.
Yeah. That's considering we approve it, of course. Do you want to go to the vote? Because we do have a proposal subject to highways.
Yeah.
And potentially subject to working with the environmental health to make sure that we mitigate noise output.
I'd be happy to amend it to include that last point, if you think it's going to help.
Anybody else got a comment on that last point? Opposed, seconded, all in favour?
Thank you very much.
Okay. P24S2641 householder for 4-6 Church Street, amended.
Yeah, so they're now proposing a new masonry wall and not a close boarded fence at the same height as the flint wall with a new timber gate. We had concerns last time about impact on the conservation area, the loss of biodiversity from getting rid of the mature hedge. So they'll still be removing the hedge as part of this amendment, but there'll be a reduction in the impact due to the wall, but it's up to the committee on how they feel about the impact on character, really.
Councillor Thomas.
I'm proposing refusal. What have this householder got against this poor hedge? I just don't get it. Honestly, I know this street so well because I walk up it practically every single day. What they're proposing is just a plain brick wall. I mean, fine, if they want to go, there are no plain brick walls up that road. And if there is one, it's at a very, very low height. By all means, if they want to go and match the rest of the walls on that street with brick and flint, then that could save the conservation area and street scene. But just a plain brick would not look right.
I'm still concerned with the loss of the hedge.
Yeah.
What is the issue with the hedge? It is a key property on that street, and I don't understand. Anyway, Councillor Jackson.
I just wonder if we knew what the motivation was for the removal of the hedge, we might be in a better position to comment.
Yeah.
But my gut feeling is that the lay public have a deep suspicion of the planning process. So always play the cards close to the chest. That's what we're up against.
I agree. However, we have a proposal for refusal, seconded. Anybody else got to speak to it? All in favour of refusal on the grounds? It's the same grounds, isn't it?
Yeah.
And agenda item number 6, plans new, P24 S3187 householder, what's this?
Sorry. I've lost my plans. Okay. So this is in the existing Highlands Park site. Permitted development rights have been removed from the development. So the local authority, so that the local authority can retain control over any future development. The cladding and brickwork is to match the existing, but it's whether it does conflict with the reasons for removing PD rights and whether the committee are comfortable with allowing this extension.
Have we got any other, have we approved any other development up there? Because I've seen the thing we have had.
We've had a couple of applications. There was a carport.
Yeah, there's a carport.
A couple
But
of
there's-
extensions,
yeah.
like back extensions,
Yeah,
but not
nothing
anything really. It is quite
size,
visible
yeah.
within the
Okay.
street.
Councillor Thomas.
The whole reason for this development is that it's addressing housing need. So all of the sizes of the houses have been very, very carefully calculated on that need. And therefore, I don't think that we should allow, supersizing of homes, because it's going to have a knock-on effect, and we're going to lose all of the smaller plots in this development. We've seen it happen here in Henley so many times. We've got bungalows or 3-bedroom houses, and they get supersized and they're lost to people forever for a more affordable way of living in Henley. I don't think it, well, affordable.
Yeah.
I feel very uncomfortable about this.
Okay. Anybody else got a comment?
We have a proposal.
Yes, it's for refusal.
refusal.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Anybody else like to have an input? We have a proposal and a seconder for refusal,
Can I put some more flesh on that comment?
if you wish to.
Yeah.
I think, well, firstly, the drawings don't make any sense. There's a roof plan that omits to show the dorm that's on the elevation, so
Yeah.
they're inconsistent. Secondly, there's a proposal within it to extend at the rear and then move the existing conservatory further out, so the impact on the neighbours huge. Loss of daylight, sunlight, humidity, etc., etc.
Neighbourly.
And then the massing of the
Massing.
side is huge. It just feels like it's the wrong thing. So,
Okay.
both in amenity terms, sunlight, daylight, massing, design, I think it falls.
Yeah, I'm happy to put add those items in on top of the housing need assessments.
We have a proposal for refusal and a seconder, and we have the grounds for refusal. All in favour? Okay. P24 S3188 householder, 17 York Road. Don't worry.
So we're on York Road.
Yeah.
So similar extensions being approved at the neighbouring property, number 15 York Road. The proposed extension would protrude slightly further out, and could have some amenity on the other side of the neighbouring property. It's unfortunate that it's not proposed pitched roof on the first floor extension, but it's at the rear of the property. Yeah.
Was the one on number 15 pitch roof?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We got a comment? I'll propose from the chair that we accept on the grounds that this has already happened. It would be nice if we could have a pitched roof. However, it is to the rear, it's a conservation zone. The likelihood of SODC accepting it are would be quite high given the precedent. I'm just looking at it from a fighting battles on which ones are we likely to win, which ones we not. Anyway, proposed. Anybody else got a second? Councillor Jackson?
Yeah.
Anybody else got a comment on that?
I think what we might find is if this is uncertain that to go through,
Yep.
the existing planning permission next door could lapse.
Yep.
Or indeed whoever works that property out could make it match, so it now starts to work together as a pair. So I think supporting it is probably the right way to do and balance.
Alternatively, do we, in terms of how we deal with it, I'm not going to try and amend my own proposal to refusal. Well, it wouldn't be the first time. It wouldn't be the first time.
That
Yeah, but is there a proposal to refuse until the plans match next door? Can we do that?
Until they match the
So
next
we
door,
have-
you'd
we
have
have
to ask for amended
refusal
plans.
on design
Yeah.
terms. and-
Yeah.
You could do that one.
So refusal and design terms,
That it doesn't match the next door, you
Yeah.
want to see amended plans.
That's actually quite sensible.
okay? I will re-propose.
Make a note of this is the second time this has happened.
Possibly, I'm not going to say it's the last.
One
So
way.
we try
Yeah.
and find a way that works for the community and works
Yeah.
for us. Yeah. Because nobody was going to comment in the first place, so I just thought I'll just take the lead. So proposal for refusal on the grounds that the design does not match the neighbouring property, and we want to try and keep it as like for like as possible.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable? We have a proposer? Yes, seconded. All in favour of that? Okay. 86 Bell Street, listed building, P24, S3271. This we've had, oh no, it's not. The like for likes were, is this a,
Like for like was New Street, Thames
Friday
side corner,
Street,
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
This is the same. Same story.
86 Bell Street. So the heritage officers got concerns, they've got objections that insufficient information has been provided, and that they see that there's a need for the works because of the poor condition of the existing joinery, and that they need further information to provide a
Okay.
decision.
Councillor Jackson?
Recommend refusal, but on the grounds there's not enough information, but the information that's there shows it as double glazing, which is clearly unlikely to be there in that form in the listed building, so I think it's a refusal.
On the precedent as well that we have already had
Yeah.
one like exactly the same. Okay. Anybody else got a comment?
Second that.
Seconded. Okay, we have a proposal for refusal on the grounds that it's not necessarily like for like and that the heritage officer is not satisfied. All in favour? P24S3346 Householder, Woodside, 18 Rutherford Road.
My only comment is that it should be ancillary to main house.
Standard.
Yeah.
Yep. Any further?
I mean, my personal, it's a big plot, but my only concern is that it's really, really close to that boundary. I mean, the neighbour on the other side hasn't objected yet, but I mean, why is there a need to push it right up against a fence like that? And it's very, very near a tree as well, so the tree officer hasn't commented yet. But apart from that, it's fine because it's a big plot.
I think the trees are proposed, because they're not on the existing.
Oh, is it? Right, okay, I thought it was an existing tree. I'll take that back.
And I think there is no established building man. That's one of the things I was looking at. There's no sort of building frontage, and there are other ancillary buildings in front of the main body of the house. So it has a consistency with some of the others. The consistency is randomness. Random position. Random position of the house in terms of its setback from the street frontage.
Okay.
But the consistency, that's a consistency, and a lot of them have buildings in front of the main body of the house. And I think the reason why it's that big is you've got to turn the cars around. That's why it's right up against the boundary.
Right.
The garden would have a loss of sunlight, but it's a front garden, it's not really an amenity space. So
Yeah.
I think there's a level of latitude we can give them there.
Are you proposing acceptance?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay,
Yeah.
seconded. All in favour?
Do you want to have the conditional bit being ancillary?
Yes.
Yes.
please.
No,
Sorry,
it'd
we're
be
saying
the-
yes to your proposal.
Yes.
I'm relaxed with that.
Even though the householder has said it would be ancillary, we just make sure
Yeah.
we're saying yes, it's going to be ancillary.
P24 S3362 householder for Northlands.
Yes, so 3 applications been received for this. They're proposing a new pool room on the site of the existing pool room. There was some comments from the SADC planning officer about potential overlooking from windows proposed at the first floor. They've removed those, but they've still got a roof light there. The pre-app also asked for a preliminary roof assessment, which I couldn't see as part of the application. But otherwise, it looks like they followed what the pre-application said.
I'm happy to propose acceptance because it's a big plot. I think any overlooking from there, you'd need binoculars.
Full room. Okay.
So yeah, I think it's fine.
And we got a
Yes.
second. Do you want to add into it?
I think it's a big plot. The plots around it are big. The overlooking, if any, are going to be from Barn Lane at the back rather than anything else in there. It's a setback. I can't say it has that much impact on anybody.
Proposal for acceptance and seconded. All in favour? And then West Hill House on West Street. Is there sufficient different? Is there anything major on the list of building side, or is it just okay? So take them together. P24 S3384 householder and P24 S3385 listed building.
So it's a listed building, the Heritage Office has been consulted. My concern that it doesn't have an existing front and rear elevation plan, so it's hard to see the plans together. I did contact the planning officer because she's off sick at the moment, so that's needed really to look at the impact, but
Councillor Jackson.
I've got some concerns about this. The bottom right of that drawing there, there are 3 new doors which don't exist on there.
yeah.
My concern is about the window-to-window distance between the very tight properties on Grays Road there. And on the first floor plan, there is a significant amount of changes, which I think is loss of historic material, loss of plan form. And that concerns me. It's a handsome building in the street. But internally it starts to get really messy with the proposals.
Is that
I
proposal for
recommend
refusal?
for refusal.
On the
Amenity
grounds of-
for amenity overlooking and loss of historic, so amenity overlooking on the planning application.
Yeah.
And loss of historic material on the listed building application.
Do we want to also put in insufficient information on the?
Yeah, I've gone to that, yeah, separately, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed, I mean, as well as noticing the massive gaps in the plans that have been not supplied. There is actually, where the utility room is, I'm not sure as the age of that particular building. I noticed that the previous occupants who put that extension in, that more modern extension, they've retained that utility room, which makes me think, is that part of the heritage asset? And so, and this proposed new extension is just going to knock that down. Are they able to do that? You know, should that be a part of the retained form of that building?
Going back to your point. And also from the heritage perspective, should the heritage officer call that out?
Sorry, did they build it, previous owners build the extension?
Only
By-
the glass, you know, the little infill, where it's quite a big infill
On the left?
on the left.
Mm.
They call it the kitchen extension, but that building that's on the left of the current building,
Mhm.
where the utility room is, that, I'm not sure as the age of that building. It looks quite old. It looks like it could be part of the original building.
I would be less concerned with that because.
Yeah, but I don't know what the heritage officer would say about it.
If you took a heritage asset, you could take parts of it away
Yeah,
and add new parts. I don't think it's a bad, but the policy supports the idea of do not touch it at all. I think it means touch it with respect. And I think the main core of that house is the sort of double-fronted
yeah.
brick and flint aspect. And if that was added, it is part of the asset, but it will have when there's a heritage report that goes with it, it would have things like less than significant effect, or they have a grading of what the impact is.
Yeah,
And I think that it could survive that being lost and something added.
right. Or is it a burgage plot? Do you think it's an original burgage plot? Because that is mentioned actually in the local plan, burgage plot.
They have pieces plots up far up.
It's very small. They're usually sort of
Normally,
long
they normally
skin
go
things,
all
aren't
the way
they?
back, don't they? Yeah. Anyway, I think it's just another thing to look out for.
So we have a proposal for refusal.
Yeah.
Burns, seconded. All in favour? Okay. Agenda item number 7. There's any of those we want to call in?
Do we need to call in Horse Lees?
I don't know that we need to because
Because it's already got you. Jodie, do you think we should call that one in to be sure, or?
So you can do, yeah.
I mean, I would be more comfortable with calling it in, but it's
Yeah,
a joint
it's-
decision.
Sets a good precedent, doesn't it, for development?
in that case, all in favour of calling it in? That's fine. Thank you. Agenda item number 8, decision notices. Is there any, in the interest of time before we clear them all, does anybody want to call anything out? Okay. Agenda item number 9, St Mark's Road. Yeah.
So the planning officers asked us to look at this again. We recommended refusal last time on the inadequacy of the plans. The officers looked at this, and they note that there's the absence of the roof plan. But in their opinion, the drawings are correct and provide sufficient detail to ensure the development is tied to the drawings provided and are sufficient to enforce against it if necessary. They have asked that the elevational drawings are used to read the acceptability of the development in terms of its design, character and scale. They've marked that in blue in the.
Yep.
In terms of planning reasons, I think we're limited and would probably advise that we remove the call-in for the application.
So from my perspective anyway, when we discussed it, we said they've brought it down considerably. They have worked towards what we thought was right, and the main response for refusal was just the lack of information. And if SODC are willing to enforce and feel they can enforce on the basis of those drawings, then I think that is an answer to what we said originally. On that basis, does anybody else want to speak, or I can propose?
I don't know, I just think
That's
that
a
it's not necessarily about the plans for me, I just think that it's just so ugly.
Yep.
It's just, why would you want to do that to your house?
Significantly less ugly than it could have been.
I mean, I just think, it's just such a shame. It's such a beautiful road and beautiful housing, conservation area. Even though it's out the back, it's still a significant part of the house. It's a big part of the roof space. But I mean, in terms of like you say, material planning considerations, that's kind of like, good design is supposed to be the principle of underpinning the local plan, isn't it?
Design and architecture are different.
I mean, it does say in the local plan, because I happen to be reading the local plan because it comes up in the agenda later, and there are certain things that the planning authority wants to preserve in Henley, which is important to the planning authority, and the integrity of the conservation area and good design are two of the flagship parts of the local plan. Jodie?
Yeah, but I just want to point out that our last response was not on concerns
Was
with
it not?
design,
No.
Oh,
Was the whole thing. They have cut back from their original design and pared it right back. And the only thing we called out on was the lack of information.
well, I mean, at least as a committee, we can put it on the record that we're not happy with the design. It was a mistake that we didn't point this out in the last one. Planning authority was walk all over us anyway, so what's the difference? Perhaps that's a bit too mean, but
Quite close to what I'm about to say. I had an email from former councillor Arlett earlier about this. And he's spoken to the planning officer at SODC, and they can see nothing to refuse it on. This is it. I mean, if we continue to object, then it will just go to the committee for approval anyway. So, yeah,
But at least
that's the
we'd
situ-
have,
yeah,
at least we'd
had our
have
say.
put our stake in and
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
not acceptable in terms of Henley-on-Thames.
Councillor Jackson.
Who's the case officer?
Councillor Arlett.
I would like to request them if I'm applying for anything. Because clearly they can't read drawings. I mean, there is no
Okay,
second. Anyway,
right, anyway.
What do you think of the design?
Sorry, 1 second.
Oh, sorry.
If you are going to maintain your calling, can you agree who's going to speak on it at SODC committee?
I mean, I
Someone really
personally,
needs to
I don't see the need to keep the call in, but I do see the need to actually put it in black and white what this planning committee thinks.
How do we do that? Do we vote for what we think? Because you've got a
That's
view,
my
it's
opinion,
your
yeah.
opinion. Councillor Jackson.
I think the changes to the design are a significant improvement on what was there. This just doesn't illustrate it. That's the problem. For me, it's just a graphic thing. But these drawings, the plan, does not represent what's on the elevations. And I think there's a problem that can't be enforced. But if case officers saying they think there's enough to enforce, then I would be minded to back away from calling it.
Okay. So what do we have to do? Do we have to actually propose this for acceptance, or are they just saying to note it, or are they asking us just to remove the call-in?
I think you need to
We need
vote
to-
to
we need
remove
to
the
vote.
call-in, because-
Yeah, we definitely need to do that. I'm just wondering if we need to say that we're happy with them using those plans as well.
Because we've got a refusal recommendation out with them at the moment.
We have an experienced architect here who knows his stuff, and you know, if the architect can't make sense of it, how can the officers? So it just doesn't make sense to me.
I think you could, it's not major, is it?
No, so we could just remove
So
the
I think you could
call-in.
just remove the call-in and leave our recommendation of refusal standing.
So we have a proposal to refuse the call-in and keep the recommendation for refusal.
Yep.
All in favour? Okay. Thank you. Number 10, budget, draft plan and budget for 25-26.
So this hasn't changed from the last time it came around. It still remains at a vast number of 2 lines. But it was really, I think we were in a real rush last time, and Councillor Thomas had suggested some possible additions. It just, either the committee needs to agree it as it is, or make suggestions that would go forward to finance actually.
Yeah, full council next week. For the end of cycle 2.
Yeah, because we've missed finance. Yeah, so it would have to go to.
Can I just say I'm a bit confused about where we you know, fit our suggestions into this, because we're about to discuss the local plan and they're kind of connected. So I don't know if you want to discuss the local plan first and come back to this, or go through something in paperwork form for the next committee. Councillor Hunt's got a suggestion.
It wasn't just that, it's a comment that on the climate ecological emergency expenses budget line, I will be bringing forward a proposal to a future meeting, not for this committee, but I think the town clerk has advised I bring it forward first to T&C for water testing equipment, which would probably then fit into this budget. And what's a rough cost, I think on top of my head, about 6,500 a year.
So there is a budget for climate emergency, and it would really need to go to them for approval. The climate emergency do not report back into here. They report back into
It's
full
an
council.
advisory committee now, isn't it?
Yeah, so it wouldn't come back into us, it would actually come back in, probably in through finance.
So I wasn't suggesting an amendment, this was just for information.
Okay.
This is likely to come
I
through,
don't see any
and
issue
that's
with
the
that.
budget line
Yeah.
that's been suggested.
Yeah.
Fits in.
I would expect climate like to assess that themselves.
So from reading the, my one is about understanding, you know, we don't yet know what's going to come out of the National Planning Policy Framework. So until we know what is coming out of that, I'm not sure we can add anything to this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a small budget anyway, because I think it's just to do with training of councillors, you know, to start with. But anyway, my one is to do with the local plan. The local plan mentions active travel, particularly cycling. And we have one tiny cycle path in Henley. And I do think the Transport Committee are really going to have to start looking at that now and bringing those plans forward. So that could be.
I would agree. From that perspective, I think if we're looking for plan for next year, we've got 2 cycles of this council. That's right. 2.
It's all right, you can.
I was going to say there's 2 things. In terms of when we plan to look at something and when we plan to actually do something, I think if we're in a position to budget for next year just to consider something, with the delivery of that then being looked at the year after, I don't know what we could really add to this budget without knowing specifics of why we're putting it in. I don't know.
And we do have 32,000 under earmark reserves for transport strategy related projects.
Okay.
Mm.
So we have got some budget already. That's
Right.
and it doesn't appear as a planning
Okay.
project line, but it is
Right.
there under earmark reserves.
Okay. Anybody? I'm sure we're going to look around and see. Are we just noting this? Are we saying that from cycle 2, this is okay? We do have concerns around potential training around the
National Planning Policy
NPPF,
Framework.
Yeah. And we do have budget for the active travel potentially.
Yeah.
Is there anything more we feel we need to put in here? What basis have we got? Anybody? No? Okay. Are we in favour then? Do we vote this through? Did a vote to say yes, we
Yeah,
vote it?
yeah, to say that it can go on to the next stage.
Okay.
So, that's it.
You okay with it?
Yeah.
Cool. Everybody else okay with it? All in favour? That's fine. Thank you. Agenda item 11. The proposal to remain part of Norman Avenue. Well, it's not Norman Avenue anymore, was it?
Yeah, we've had a suggestion of Trinity Lane. If everybody's happy with that.
Yeah,
That's the
I
only
went full, I don't know about you, I went full circle and thought, I really like Holly Lane. And then I read back down the big long chain, oh, nothing to do with Holly Lane. So yeah, I mean, the person that was one of the person to suggest this is actually the chair of the Henley History and Archaeology Group. Lives around that area as well. So yeah, I think it's
Sounds
good.
Okay. Good. Agenda item 12, local plan consultation. Julie.
Yes, so we looked at this earlier in the year when it was the preferred options consultation. So we've discussed most of this before. They're proposing a lot around forward thinking around sustainable development and climate change approaches, and that's their main priorities, setting that out at the start of the plan. There's a lot of proposals that are sensible within regards to that, and they've got the addition of reducing urban heat island effect, also around retrofit policies and around water efficiency. There are additional policies. These include C1 to C5, and they're all quite technical in nature, these policies, and quite long and quite tricky almost to understand. So I was suggesting to put a comment back to say if these can be made any clearer and to make sure that these are future-proof in terms of being open to new standards that are introduced in the future, so that they're not just all
Not
of a
limiting,
sudden,
yeah.
the plan comes out and then they can't be used. That was one of my main comments in terms of those. Also around trying to minimise carbon and impacts of their design, they refer to the word should. Maybe it would be beneficial to say that they must. So strengthening the wording around those policies. It's good to see a policy on embedded carbon because there's no national policy on that at the moment. So that's positive. In terms of the strategy for Henley, mainly it's been brought forward from the old plan. There's no housing requirement because we've already addressed that within the neighbourhood plan. They do refer to a number of evidence documents that we need to refer to looking forward, which is fine. The only thing to note was around to improve employment opportunities and building stock within existing employment sites. Just to clarify what they mean by building stock. Because if that's housing, then that would allow for new housing within employment designated sites. So
It's only specifically around Newtown Road.
that would be, where that would apply. So
Yeah.
if the committee agreed, then I would clarify what they mean by that.
Yeah.
In terms of housing, they're positively requiring 50% affordable housing, which is up from 40%, half of which would be for social rent. I've probably just set out what we put last time in terms of around ensuring that new homes are truly affordable and reflect local incomes. They could improve choice and remain affordable and support those in greatest need. We wanted to see that higher percentage of social rent, so we can just reinstate those desires. In terms of housing mix, again, we want to promote 1 or 2 bedroom houses and do more to discourage short-term lets. So they're just general points, really. Older persons accommodation. We were waiting on the evidence to show that there's a need, but the policy doesn't require there to be a need for older persons to allow permission for such development.
Do they class as older persons these days?
Yeah. But, over 55. So.
You're there.
So, and it also states that local communities would be encouraged to identify suitable sites for specialist housing for older persons through neighbourhood plans. So again, I might push back on that because it should be around the need rather than just the spatial.
Yeah.
Well, also point out to them that we already have an awful lot, especially with the addition of the retirement villages, which are completely encircling Henley now.
The other side of it, though, is that retirement villages, it's fine for people who can afford to go into retirement villages. There are other people in Henley who are older who need to have housing. Whether that's classed as social housing, I don't know.
And then next one is in terms of retail floor space, there's still a requirement for this 1,500 square metres of food store. And that's their evidence is to focus new food stores on places with high provision currently. So I'm tempted to again question whether that should be on the need. Where's the need for food stores? Just as a comment, if you're comfortable with that. And the next one, optimising densities. If the policy was to come into force, then there would be a presumption in places like Henley that they would have higher densities, so higher than 45 dwellings per hectare, unless there are other matters that justify a different approach. It doesn't directly link to character or context, so maybe we need that
back
added in there.
Get it in,
Because we might come into issues further on when there's sites for redevelopment and it's not looking at other planning issues. And then finally, in terms of the overnight visitors accommodation, we asked them to have a look at Oxford's local plan that was restricting short-term lets within the city, but they've come back and said there's no evidence to support that. There's a long bit to say, but they're saying that they would still attach conditions to relevant planning permissions that prevent overnight being permanent, but not to reduce short-term let. So again, I can insert our comments that we made last time if you wish.
Well, I'd like to know where they're basing, how they're getting their evidence, because, you know, it's quite easy to go and get that evidence. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind clarifying that point, because we do have a serious problem in Henley regarding short lets. And even if, you know, if they want to say fine to short lets, but make sure that they're you know, they're taxed suitably, because it does generate extra rubbish and such like, you know, so, yeah, I'd be interested to see what they've got to say about that. Sorry, have you completed? Yeah. I've just got one point to make, and they, in their strategy for Henley, they say that they continue to support the estates. It was a very funnily worded line about Gillett's, supporting the accommodation for Gillett's and the college.
Yeah,
What do they mean by that?
it's just.
We've got 4 primary schools here as well.
Yeah.
So why, I mean, what are they going to say, that they're rebuilding these places, or they need to clarify that, because I don't know what they mean.
To support planning applications for like the college, if they're putting a new block in, then they would support that need.
But why not the primary schools?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
we can
I mean, I
question
just,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
Why single out the,
Okay,
So
I
it needs to be
understand what you
wider,
mean.
it needs to be more inclusive.
Yeah.
It needs to
Yeah.
be specific that it means support.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Good, that's a good point.
Oh, and enforcement as well. Do they never go into enforcement in these plans? No, they don't, no. It's just the amount of ancillary dwellings that we've got around Henley, which are clearly not ancillary, and they just never, enforcement never follow up. They never follow up on greening either. You know, when a householder has completed their build, they don't look whether they follow through on their greening
So-
plan.
Enforcement have to be instructed to go and do something. They aren't just going to go off and do it on their own.
They don't check that it's complete, because the building regs have to be signed off by by the authority. Do they not have to sign off the greening as well?
It depends if it comes with the building.
Should come onto the building regs, shouldn't it? But if it's not like that at a national level, then there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, see, because if it's, you can't sign building regs off if they haven't met the building regs. But if it's something separate from the building regs, it has to be reported first for enforcement. And they're very cagey about telling you what they're enforcing or who's actually. So I wouldn't want to comment that they don't enforce without any evidence.
Oh, I think there's plenty of evidence.
There's lots of evidence. Okay. Are you okay with what has been said there?
Yeah.
Great. Agenda item 13, telecoms at Grays Road.
Yeah, so this is pre-planning application consultation. It will go to finance in due course. So this is after Telent have looked at numerous, over 100, according to Sheridan, different locations. This is the one application, the one site that seems to be suitable. Sheridan has proposed that actually, rather than on the access page on page 25, that rather than come up all the way through Makins, that they come in from the Gainsborough estate.
You beat me to it, Kath.
But it won't be seen by the vast majority of houses. Only very few houses would be able to see the mast. It's behind the tree line. It appears to be the only location, and to be honest, I'm not sure how much choice the council has, but you know, we have been sent the plans to review.
I think the one house that it will overlook is Harcourt.
It's hideous, but we don't have a choice.
I think that's basically what
These are
it's saying.
springing up all over the country, and yeah, it's just part of national infrastructure, and we don't have much of a say.
least we'll then move it from the,
Yeah, there's no reason to have the access in the way they've suggested, so I think
No,
if we-
that's
they
our,
can move that.
that's our only request really, isn't it? But, I mean, as well, I mean, the telephone company themselves have pointed out to the council that they're basing this decision on, you know, complaints that they're getting from the lack of coverage in Henley. So that's principally why
It
this,
is-
My concern is it
Why it's
does,
come
I'm not sure
about.
if it's going to be a shared mast, it gives people one network.
it will be from
it will be shared, they have to be shared, don't they?
not for 5G.
No.
No,
So then we could end up having more of these
Oh.
for other networks. and
that's
I'm-
nonsense, isn't
Well,
it?
so just around that though, they have, so the current masts that are shared are mostly in the back of the fire station. The one that is on top of the St Mary's Church is the one that doesn't work anymore, so that's an O2 one, so that may end up being replaced by O2. But EE don't have one that is with 5G around here.
Right,
The issue we've had with the rest of the masts has been to do with 3 moving and closing down their 3G network. And the majority of the 3G network is what is shared by the smaller vendors of
yeah.
whatever, and those are the ones that are suffering at that.
Mm.
So EE and O2 here, reception is quite good. Vodafone is iffy. So this is, from my understanding, that this is for the EE one. They
Right,
have tried already to put it outside Swiss Farm. They
Yes.
have looked at many other places, and I think this is somewhere that they're going to, if you don't let us do this, we're still going to do it.
My only thing is, could we put something in that says we would like this to be a shared mast, so we're not having to have the same conversation for another site with another place that's doing more damage visually, damage to green space.
Don't know that we can do that.
We can send a comment back.
Yeah. Can you please make sure that no other people do this? Yeah.
Well, it just doesn't make sense. If we've got a mast that works, rather than have to then give up more land, more green space, more loss of visual immunity, they can share a mast, which clearly they can.
Yeah.
Technical ability is there.
Is it not more a question to say when the next one comes along, the direction
I'd rather
is?
it be a condition on this one that if someone else wants to use it, they have to let them. Otherwise, we could end up, they could say, well, why should we share if they have it?
Okay. Can we enforce that? Can we do anything about that? Because this is a commercial, this isn't, like I said, it's national infrastructure. It's a commercial thing.
That I don't know, but if we can ask for a comment, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can ask and we can send it to SODC planning
Yeah.
as well.
Perfect.
it's worth asking.
On that basis, agreed?
Yeah.
Okay.
With our comment about the
Yes.
access.
Yes, please, with the access to Freedom Gainsborough. Okay, agenda item 14, progress report for applications called in. I don't believe there's any change on,
So we're removing our
Yep.
48 St Mark's Road.
Yeah.
Calling, Thames Farm, they're still waiting for the EA to respond.
Yep.
Screening decision came through from the Secretary of State to say that environmental impact assessment is required. So they'll be looking the impacts on the water environment. But still waiting for a decision.
and the amount still under,
Yeah.
and the same with the whole. Okay. Progress report. So, do you want to discuss?
I haven't got any updates.
Okay,
There you go. That was quicker.
that was easy. And shop front ad?
So now that the local plan consultation's running, we know what's going to be in the
Yeah.
local plan, we can progress that.
Okay. Henley Manor, did we send a letter to the Henley Manor? Sorry, by Henley Manor.
Yeah, so we got they refused the application, didn't they?
Mm. And I said, is it now going to move to enforcement? But apparently another plan has come back. But I don't think it's been formally
Okay.
sent yet to SODC.
Okay.
And the mayor is sending a letter to, have you sent it or is it in progress?
Sorry. I'm not sure if
This
you
is
remember.
Henley Manor Care Home, the Hallmark homes, which haven't given put the path back yet.
Yes.
We want them to please speed up the process because we're nearly 10 years in.
We still don't have that.
Yes, apologies, yes, no, I do need to do that.
And you could perhaps make it an open letter
Very happy.
For,
So can we have a meeting about that separately and then we can go
Yeah.
through? Is that- You have a lot of background knowledge on this that I don't, so it'll be very.
Unfortunately, yes.
There's
Yes.
that and raison d'etre. Okay, can I add ones? I know we've got a lot written for the biodiversity officer.
Yeah,
Who, did she accept? You know, she accepted.
I could give councillors an update on that after the meeting.
Brilliant. That person, gender unspecific. Anything else on here?
No, I mean, to note at the bottom of page 34, members of the Climate and Nature Emergency Advisory Group did start delivering to various households who would fall into the eligibility bracket of the EPC that they have and the council tax band, to highlight that there are insulation grants available, and got a really positive response, and asked for another 200 letters from us so that they can go round to a load more houses. So that's really encouraging.
Good. Okay. Thank you all for your patience on this planning meeting. I don't think we've ever finished quite this late,
Thank you.
quite some time. Thank you.
See you all.
Well done.